Ooh, this is bad. It's so bad. I I went online because I was having a bit of a tickle in my throat to see what it might be, and according to Bing, I have every single cancer known to man. Okay, so what you're saying is that even though a trustworthy random unknown person posted on a blog that my cough was a symptom of me having every kind of cancer known to man, that does not actually mean I'm going to die a very slow and painful yet very soon death? Whew, man, that's a relief. Yeah, I know, I don't know why I use Bing. I guess I just never really got around to installing Chrome. Yes, I know that everybody's installed Chrome and uses Google, but I guess I just never bothered. I mean, Bing works well enough, and I know how to install Chrome, but I don't know, I guess I just never got around to doing it, you know? Oh, hey guys! So, good news! My imminent death is not necessarily going to happen, unless some very weird and random event occurs, which let's hope it doesn't. But, this just so happens to relate to my current point in the video. Second opinions, or more specifically, second opinions in the medical field. Now, there's a unfortunately semi-common misconception that if a doctor asks for a second opinion, that either means A, they really don't know what they're doing, or B, they're very unsure of themselves, so you really can't trust what they're doing. Please sit for this video because this misconception is not only somewhat widespread, but more importantly can have a huge negative impact on the given health of any one or multiple patients. Okay, so I think the best way to explain this to you is probably to start by the perspective of what doctors have to deal with. In this very specific case, I'm referring to the human body. Yes, several different doctors deal with several different parts of the human body, but overall, they will be dealing with the human body. And understand that the human body in itself is unfathomably complex. Think about this. There are more cells in your body than there are people in the entire world. And each individual cell is more complex than the world's smartest computer. I could sit here, just name any singular cell, doesn't matter. Name any singular cell in your body, and I could probably sit here lecturing you for 3 hours, and we wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface of the complexity in that singular cell. And your body is made out of 7 billion of these. Now, when it comes to something like a cell phone, don't get me wrong, super complex. I'm not going to be able to put one together right now. I just don't have the knowledge. But if something goes wrong with your phone, there's only so many things that's going to cause a problem with it. Don't get me wrong, there are multiple causes that can cause a singular problem. That's very much true. But say your screen, for instance, if you have a problem with your screen, there's only so many things that can cause a certain issue, right? If your screen's fritzing out, could be the connection between the screen and the motherboard, could be something wrong with the screen itself, probably a list of other stuff that I don't immediately know off the top of my head because I'm not an electrical engineer. But the point is that you could probably list all of the stuff that could potentially be wrong with the screen. It would probably be a lot, don't get me wrong. It's not simple either, but you could probably list them all out. Even the smartest doctor probably couldn't list out all of the reasons that a cough would happen or that you'd get a headache, because that's how complex it is. And what you need to understand is that doing the work that doctors do, it can be a bit of a process. Think about it like this, okay? Let's say I have the best detective in the world, right? No other better detective. And I hand him a case file. And granted, if it's obvious, he might immediately figure it out. But more often than not, if I hand him a file and I say, hey, listen, here's the case, I need you to figure out who robbed this bank, who killed this man, who's been laundering this money, whatever the case may be, odds are that he's not going to open it and be immediately like, oh, I obviously know who this is. No, realistically speaking, he's probably going to go, he's probably going to look at evidence, he's probably going to go try to find witnesses, he's probably going to get testimonies, he's probably going to collect all the evidence, he's probably going to send God knows what to the lab to figure stuff out. And it's all a process. And even the best detective is probably going to be a little while before he figures everything out, because it's a process to figure it out. And more often than not, they'll probably ask other people for their opinions on stuff. So, yeah, he might reach out to another detective and be like, hey, do you see anything that I might have missed? Or going back to the lab, even though he is really good at the detective work, he's not going to be able to run DNA. And it's not because he's a bad detective. He's a very good detective, best one in the world. But he just can't run DNA. He's going to need somebody else to help him out with that. And it's the same thing with a doctor, right? Now, again, more often than not, you can go in and it's more or less obvious what's wrong with you because they see so many people a day. When you see the most common thing happen, they'll probably be able to figure out stuff that's relatively simple. Like if the flu season is going around and you're having flu symptoms, the odds are you have the flu and they know exactly what to tell you to do. But more often than not, it's a process to figure out what the heck is wrong with you. And like with the detective, they might need a second pair of eyes, even when they're the best doctor in the world. Because they're dealing with something that is this crazy complex, that they might need a second pair of eyes. And it's not because they might not be able to figure it out. Maybe they can figure it out. But more often than not, it's going to be faster to do it with a second pair of eyes looking for stuff. And then in other cases, it just helps to have another person's opinion and another perspective to look at it. Also understand that realistically speaking, it does not matter how good you are at anything, ever. It does not matter whether it's computer engineering, whether it's aerospace engineering, whether it's art, whether it's writing, whether it's... I'm running out of careers that I can name off the top of my head, but you get my point. It does not matter what career you're in. If you are the best at it, I still guarantee you, I'll bet my whole life savings on it, that at one point or another, you probably have and will make another mistake. Because you know what? You're human. Now, in a lot of those professions, people still get second opinions on stuff. That's not uncommon. But with that said, in a lot of the other professions, you can afford to lose stuff. Like, take for my cell phone, for instance. If I go and get it repaired and they mess it up, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm going to be pretty upset because it is, let's say hypothetically, it's a very expensive phone. If I bring an expensive phone in to get fixed and they mess it up even more, yeah, I'm going to be upset because it's an expensive phone and I'm out that money and I'm not going to have my phone. But I can replace the phone. Phones are replaceable. Not easily, don't get me wrong. Some of them are kind of pricey, but they're replaceable. That it's possible to replace them. And even if I don't, realistically, it's not the end of the world for me to downgrade on the phone. But your body, on the other hand, that's not something that's really replaceable. I mean, yeah, we have stuff that's like, replaceable joints, but you're probably going to want to avoid that if you can. So when it comes to that, it might be that they just want to have another doctor overlook everything. Because even if you're the best doctor in the world, you're still going to mess up at some point. And at that point, it's probably going to be a good thing that the doctor is frequently asking for second opinions to make sure everything's double checked and decrease the chances of that happening. Like I said, this happens in other professions. I mean, even if I have with me the best writer in the world, you wouldn't look at the writer and say, if you give it to a spell checker, somebody who's professionally good at checking for spelling errors, then you're a bad writer. Or another thing writers do very frequently is they'll give it to other writers or other people to read over and give them notes. That they do that very, very frequently. You wouldn't tell a writer that they're a bad writer because they got somebody else's opinion on their work. That's just the process of being a writer. They write, they have somebody check their work to see if it's good or not. Mathematicians also do it. They have other people go through their equations to see if it actually holds up or not. You wouldn't look at any of these other professions and say you're bad at your job because you need somebody else to check it. And it's the same thing with doctors. And I understand why people have this weird hesitation with second opinions, because it is their body. And when it comes to that, it's understandable that you get kind of nervous, especially when somebody's asking for a second opinion. You do get that bit of hesitation, which from that point of view, don't get me wrong, very, very understandable that you have that kind of reaction. Now, as understandable as that perspective may be, what we also need to understand is that this kind of thinking can have a very, very negative impact on not just the doctors, but more importantly, the patients that they're trying to treat. Because, like in a lot of other professions, one of the biggest things the doctors need to be able to do their job properly is for the patient to trust them. And the reason this kind of thinking can be very detrimental to the doctor being able to do his job is that even if he thinks that it's absolutely necessary or it's really, really beneficial for him to get a second opinion in benefit of the patient, he will hesitate and maybe not do it at all if he thinks doing so will compromise his trust with the patient. Whatever the reason may be, it might not be that he's unsure of himself. It might be that he just wants to have everything double checked because this is a very important thing. Like I said, bodies can't be replaced. Maybe it's that even though he can get to the solution on his own, he might need a second pair of eyes to get to it a little faster. So, regardless of the fact that this can be very, very, very beneficial to the patient, they won't do it because if they think it's going to compromise the trust of the patient, then they'll also think that regardless of what benefits they can get from getting the second opinion, it won't matter very much if the patient doesn't trust them, and they won't be able to help them with whatever information they got from the second opinion anyways. So that's why I encourage you that the next time your doctor says that you should get a second opinion or you need a second opinion, then just go ahead and let him get a second opinion, or go to a doctor to get a second opinion, because that's never a bad thing to do. You should do it because for all the reasons I listed, it can be very beneficial to the individual patient, and encouraging doctors to do so can only increase your health and or care of health even more so. Well, guys, that's it. What's that, Ruku? Oh, okay. So you think it was just allergies? Man, I'm really glad I got a second opinion. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell button. I post every other week. If you have any other suggestions for video ideas I could make, or just want to tell me how great I am, as always, I never mind that. Until next time, hear nothing and listen to all. Bye, guys.